I lost my job about a month ago, so I guess you'll be seeing more of me. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's been a minute, and from my cold open, I'm sure you know why. To keep it short, I lost my job about 3 weeks ago, and I was gonna get you this video out before that happened. Well, it was very abrupt. I was trying to get this video out before it happened, but then I got laid off, and the last 3 weeks have been figuring myself out, figuring out what I'm going to do next. And then so finally, when I got around to editing the footage of this video, I found that something went up. I don't know if it was the exporting. I don't know if it was something with the app that I was using at the time, which was Cinema P3 on my iPhone, but something glitched out in the footage and the audio never got synced up with the video. So instead of trying to fix it, trying to find where the audio syncs and syncs it again, I'm like, I didn't even like that footage anyway. I have a new camera now, finally. So I thought, okay, I'm going to reshoot this and try and make it better as I can, and here we are. Let's get right into it. Danmei, the long and the short of it, is Chinese BL. So BL is called boys love, gay men romances, basically. You also have Yuri, which is GL, which is the Japanese term for girls love. I don't really feel like a lot of people use the term yaoi anymore. Anyway, if I ever make a yaoi video, that's not going to be for a while because yaoi is a whole thing. But danmei is the Chinese term for Japanese BL, literally meaning indulging beauty. Danmei has been around for ages and ages, but what many might consider to be the first big break into the West is Grandmaster of demonic cultivation, also known as Mo Dao Zu Shi by Mo Xiong Tong Xu. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm just going to go with MXTX, which is the abbreviation that everybody uses. So I'm sure you've seen these guys on Twitter, on Tumblr, or wherever you are. This is the first big break I found. I believe it was 2018, just around when I was going to college. My friends were into it, and by that time the donghua had come out, or the donghua is the term for Chinese anime. So another thing that will help, another slight tangent, but I'll circle back. Real quick, another thing you should know is that a lot of danmei novels are also wuxia novels or xianxia novels. Wuxia basically is the Chinese fantasy genre involving martial arts or martial arts heroes. So a big example of a wuxia story is Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which is the movie directed by Ang Lee. That is the top example, especially in the West. I've heard Kung Fu Panda technically counts kind of as a wuxia example. So that's kind of the vibe that we're going for here. And xianxia is when you throw magic into it, that is what makes it a xianxia. Xianxia examples, Avatar: The Last Airbender is a very light example of a xianxia novel. It has some elements, but is not super considered a xianxia example. Also, if you're into anime and manga, especially Japanese anime and manga, they take a lot of inspiration from Chinese elements. This will be a pretty easy transition for you. It wouldn't be so far-fetched to say Dragon Ball is a type of xianxia fantasy. The whole thing with Son Goku is that he's basically Sun Wukong, so anime fans, I guess you better get in on this. And so wuxia and xianxia usually consist of elements of Taoist and Buddhist beliefs. So, for example, you have the element of yin and yang, the concept of qi, which is a concept in Chinese medicine that's sort of a quantifiable concept to define energy, a type of energy, the balance of qi, so on and so forth. I feel like I should know how to explain qi better because my mom takes me to a Chinese practitioner and he says I don't have enough qi. So obviously if I were in the live action Mulan movie, I'd just die. I just die. I would just simply pass away. To circle back to danmei, a lot of the danmei that's being officially licensed for English right now are xianxia fantasy works. However, not all danmei is wuxia, and not all wuxia is danmei, of course. The thing is that danmei just generally means Chinese BL. When you go and look into some danmei works that are still on the web, some of them do take place in the modern world. They take place in different time periods, different genres, detective and whatnot. Danmei is just a way to say that this is a story about usually two men, boys love, male gay love. It's That's what it is. That's all what Danmei is. But I'm here to tell you, kind of give a brief explanation on what you can find easily now. So circling back to Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation, this is actually MXTX's second series. However, I'm going to start with this one because it is like the most famous one, is the one that I first got into. So to give a brief overview of the plot, it follows the titular Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation, Wei Wuxian. And Wei Wuxian is actually dead at the beginning of the story. However, due to a curse, he is able to be reincarnated into a new body 13 or 16 years after his original death, depends on the adaptation. Old grudges are still running very hot and people are still hating the Grandmaster of Demonic Arts, Wei Wuxian. They curse his name, they blame him for all their misfortunes. However, Wei Wuxian is kind of bouncing around and is like, I'm just a little guy. Why would you hit me, a little guy? But Wei Wuxian finds himself in the center of old conflicts and reunites with his childhood companion of sorts, Lan Wangji, who is the exact opposite of Wei Wuxian in many ways. Of course, Wei Wuxian thinks he hates him, but actually, Lan Wangji, there's more to him than just his stoic face. And there's a whole cast of characters, such as Jinling's uncle, and there's also Jinling's uncle who is in cahoots with Jinling's uncle, and there's also Jinling's uncle, but he kind of doesn't do anything. And as I said before, that there are 1,001 different adaptations of this. There is the novelization, the original novel, of course, but there is also, as I mentioned before, the donghua, which is the anime. There is the live action. There is also the chibi donghua version. And there's also the audio drama. They have an audio drama as well. Wasn't there also a mobile game? Probably. So any which way you slice it, you can get Grandmaster Demonic Cult. You can get it. It's absurdly easy. Moving on to explain MXTX's first work, which is a little, an older sibling that's a little rough around the edges but has a lot of heart, and that is the Scum villain's self-saving system. This story follows the main character Shen Yuan, who is a guy from our modern world. He's just a shut-in who reads stallion novels all day, like incredibly masculine power fantasies where the guy gets the girl and gets more girls and builds a whole harem, and he hates it, but he still reads the entire thing and curses the author to hell and back. However, one day he chokes on a dumpling and dies, and ends up in the world of the novel he hates the most, Proud Immortal Demon Wei. And not only is he reincarnated into the novel, he's reincarnated as its most hated character, Shen Qingqiu, who is the master of the protagonist, Luo Binghe. All Shen Qingqiu wants to do now is avoid the original Scum villain's fate of turning into a human stick stuck in a pickle jar, because the protagonist hated his guts so much. He just wants to avoid all that, live a quiet life, but the system is not so kind and forces him to proceed with the story, and he finds himself more and more entangled with the protagonist, Luo Binghe, as the story progresses. This one, I have a special fondness for this one, even though it is a bit rough, because the thing is that Shen Yuan, or Shen Qingqiu, is from our world. So he has a lot of modern sensibilities, like a very modern sense of humor. And he is always trying to fight against the system, which is like this, how to explain? It is an entity that lives inside him, his head, because the thing is, he is what's known in stories like this, a transmigrator. So transmigration stories are similar to isekai stories, if you're an anime fan, otherworld stories. So the system is this entity that lives in his brain. Because he is transported into a novel, the system wants to progress with the stories of that novel and fill in the plot holes, so to speak. And finally, to jump right into it, we also have MXTX's third work. It is called Heaven Official's Blessing, or 天官赐福. And this one is, well, to start off, it has the span of about 800 years. So it is the longest of MXTX's work. Well, all three series are being officially licensed by Seven Seas, and they're coming out in volumes. So Scum Villain is the shortest. It only has 4 volumes. It's already been completed. Grandmaster Demonic Cultivation finished up recently with 5 volumes. And Heaven Official's Blessing is slated to be finished in 8 volumes. So it is the longest, and the plot follows the Crown Prince Xie Lian and his 3rd ascension to godhood. What happened with his first 2 ascensions? You'll just have to read to find out. So Xie Lian's 3rd ascension into godhood, and he's a rather meek and soft-spoken god. He doesn't want to cause any trouble. He doesn't seem to have a lot of powers. However, we learn throughout the span of the story that he was once the crown prince of, what was the name of this country again? Well, however, we learn he was once the all-powerful crown prince of a once prosperous country that was destroyed 800 years ago. Because his 3rd ascension to godhood was quite noisy, he has to repay a lot of debts and just wants to live out a simple life to gain followers again. So he takes on odd jobs that take him all around the country, and along the way he runs into a mysterious young man named San Lang, who is eager to help him out and seems to know a lot more than he lets on. And as the story progresses, this is just a very minor spoiler. Like, it's literally on the front cover. Like it's literally on the front cover. So you find out that San Lang is actually the supreme ghost king named Hua Cheng. Heaven Official's Blessing is a little more episodic in nature, very much sort of a bit like a Monster of the Week kind of vibe, rather than just like one straight plot line. But the thing is that each episode feeds into the next, feeds into the rest of the story, feeds into the grander narrative. So honestly, Heaven Official's Blessing, it has its weak spots. I actually haven't finished this one, not because all of the volumes aren't out yet. I tried to read it when it was still a free fan translation, and I made it to somewhere around the middle of volume 5. However, volume 5 is a very slow volume. Honestly, I just ended up slowing down, procrastinating, and didn't finish it, and then it was licensed, so I can't read it anymore anyway because it was taken down. So I've explained to you the most popular Danmei author's works. However, the world of Danmei does not stop there. Seven Seas has also licensed a bunch more Danmei novels other than MXTX's work, and arguably the next most popular one is The Husky and His White Cat Shizhen by Ruoba Buchiro, which literally translates to Meat Bun Doesn't Eat Meat. This one takes on a more darker and perhaps a little more spicier tone than the rest of them. MXTX's work is also quite dark and quite gory at points. This one just happens to kind of dial it up a little more. Another brief tangent is that being spicy in these Danmei works is difficult. So if spice is something that you're really looking forward to in any of your romance books, any of your LGBTQ romance books, Danmei isn't the best place to look for them. Definitely in fan fiction, there's multitudes of explicit, mature rated, sexy fanfics out there, and that's great. However, the thing is that Danmei is Chinese, and the thing that China is dealing with right now is censorship. And the thing is that basically all of these Danmei novels start out as web novels. And the thing is that China's internet is heavily regulated and heavily monitored, that so many people resort to code words, symbols. They resort to all sorts of ways to get around the rules. So that's why you might find vague language, fades to black, just no spice at all in some. So that's why the matter of more explicit scenes in Danmei might not be found. However, Husky and White Cat Shizhen just kind of go all out. And honestly, mad respect to the author for that. I highly recommend looking up triggers for Husky and White Cat because, like I said, it does take it to another level. However, if this is just not your jam, it's just not your jam. And honestly, big respect to that. And that's it. I'm really not a big fan of people who don't like a certain thing and they just make it a whole big deal about them not liking a certain thing and how other people should be ashamed for liking a certain thing. It's fiction. It's fantasy. It's fine the way it is, and if any of this happened in real life, I would be horrified. But it's fine because it's just on the page. And as long as you know the distinction between fiction and reality, I think we'll all be okay. So Husky and Whitecat Shizun follows. It opens with Tan Xianjun, who is the lord of the entire cultivation world. Cultivation is like the word they use for basically magic users who are kind of like exorcists. And so going off another tangent here, I'm so sorry. Cultivation is a Taoist concept in which you basically cultivate your spiritual powers, cultivate your qi in order to do things like exorcise demons, achieve immortality. So going back, Tan Xianjun, who is the lord of the entire cultivation world, basically like king of the world. However, he is supremely depressed. And he feels that he is the loneliest person in the world. He has a wife who he doesn't see, and the person he hates the most has just died, so he feels like he has nothing to live for. So he basically takes the shortcut to being reincarnated, but not just into another body. He gets reincarnated into his old self, his 16-year-old self, back when he was known as Moran. And when he is back to his 16-year-old self, he is back to being the disciple of the person he thought he hated the most, his teacher Chu Wanning, who is the Whitecat Shizun. But it doesn't go exactly as he once remembered his life going. Now this what do they call it? They call it the version 2 life, the version 2.0 in the fandom. This version 2.0 life doesn't go the exact same way as his previous life did, and there is someone in the shadows orchestrating things, and he teams up with his teacher to find out who it is. And then we also have a lot more coming out throughout the rest of this year and into next year as well. For example, we also have Thousand Autumns by Chen Xiu. That one I'm really eager to read. I have a copy of it here. I just need to read a bunch of other things before I get to that. We also have another thing that just came out, also by Roba Buchuro, and that is Remnants of Filth. I think they said it takes place in the same world as Husky and Whitecat, but don't quote me on that. That could just be me totally making it up because they're by the same author. This is a new camera, so I'm still figuring it out. It says I have 1 minute of footage left before I get cut out. Thank you for sticking around with this video. This has been me badly explaining Danmei to you and some examples that you can start reading right here. I know I didn't explain Thousand Autumns or Remnants of Filth, but like they're really good and I can't wait to read them. Anyway, that's been me, Grace. Oh God. Kiss your fandom friends goodnight. I have 0 minutes on the clock, and thank you so much for watching. Bye.